Welcome back to part 2. Now, with here, one thing I want to talk about the effects, takeaways of this book is they talk about how blogging has been slowly taking over journalism. Okay, and at first, one of the reasons was that journalists would say it wouldn't be a big deal was because journalists were getting paid, whereas bloggers were not. Okay, so why would people take blogging seriously, or why would bloggers take blogging seriously if they weren't getting paid? But as time went on, that wasn't true anymore, and people started to make an income. One of the other issues they talk about how is that bloggers were often inaccurate portrayals of the news, and then what they did was just not true in some cases. However, as time went by, it was clear that journalists were no different than them. Inaccuracies in reporting, factual errors chipped away at their reputation. Bear in mind, there is no specific formal training to become a journalist. Training is available, but it's not an official prerequisite, so all they had to rely on was their integrity. Once that left, the industry began to dig its own grave. Another thing, too, is bloggers can turn around news faster. Instead of having to worry about getting a story into newsprint, typing it up, getting editorial approval, possibly checking your facts, and then getting it to press, blogs are done almost instantaneously. So the turnaround time is much faster. So this was a huge appeal. And then finally, another thing is blogs have made getting news and information more democratic and more honest. What I mean by this is instead of having the media decide what are the stories you want and what information you can receive, the blogosphere has made news available of all kinds to all people. One of my favorite cases is the man who was blogging from Iraq during the American invasion in, 2003. Here he describes the horror and the fallout of society. Now this is the story that you did not hear in the news, but this here is definitely something that people want to read about. Finally, another key takeaway is that there are no more gatekeepers here to the news. In this case here, anyone can get a blog out and anyone can produce news. In fact, new competitions even put together here with battling to find your page and SEO writing, where people are constantly trying to find new ways to increase their Google rankings. The only battle now is with what they call the long tail, which is mentioned by Chris Anderson, where there are steadily diminishing returns on people finding your page. Moving on now to the analysis. This book here is the blog will not be denied. For all its criticisms and problems, it's still going strong 20 years later. The world is more and more connected all the time. Instead of news and information coming from one place, we are now all sources of news, and everyone has a role to play in contributing to the news here. And it's also changed the way we use news too. Okay, blogs are now the source of information, and as they're mentioned in the Clue Train Manifesto, markets are conversations. So people want to talk. This book definitely makes a case for blogs having a place in any social media plan. Facebook and Twitter are givens, but blogs serve their own purpose. Where other blogs are meant to develop relationships and to share information, blogs are about conversation. This is where journalists have missed the point. This is neither about news nor about facts. A fair amount of information on the site is not really based on anything other than one's personal opinion. Again, blogs are about conversations. They're about engaging people. So as we head into the new era of public relations, where two-way communication is the norm and building connections between people takes center stage, the need to converse has never been greater. People want to interact with their favorite brands and to have their voice heard. In today's bleeding-edge competitive environment, losing sight of this is a quick drop off a steep cliff. As proved by many of the great blogs, it doesn't matter how big we are. Customers like what they like. We don't have to be Google or Microsoft. We just have to be ourselves. This book should serve as a centerpiece of all undergraduate public relations programs. It has everything: history, practical uses of blog, cautionary tales, and a glimpse at the future. For those who've been in the field for a while, many of these things may resonate deeply with you as you may have watched this unfold over time. It may not be as helpful, but nonetheless, the points are there. Thank you very much.